Welcome back. In today's France 24 debate, we're talking Ukraine, and in particular the latest developments and the reaction to the staged murder of the anti-Kremlin journalist Arkady Babchenko, who appeared to have been gunned down on Tuesday in a contract-style killing which was blamed on Russia. Well, he was only to service alive and well on live television the following day. Babchenko says that together with the Ukrainian secret services, he had been preparing that stunt for several weeks, and he's lashed out at critics of the staged killing, asking them to put themselves in his shoes. Well, in this debate, we'll be asking, to whose advantage has this bizarre sequence of events played out? And has all of this drawn attention to the dangers of speaking out against President Vladimir Putin? Well, in a moment, I'll put those questions to our panel, but first, a quick reminder of what happened.
A handshake and a hug from Ukraine's president. Petro Poroshenko congratulated the country's security forces for foiling an alleged Russian plot to kill Arkady Babchenko.
This operation was successful, and we did not allow them to accomplish this scenario. I gave instructions to the head of the intelligence services to organize security.
Just before this meeting, Babchenko stunned the world by appearing alive and well at a press conference in the Ukrainian capital. Less than 24 hours earlier, he was reported to have been shot and killed at his Kiev apartment. Ukraine security services, the SBU, said Babchenko's death had been faked to foil a very real plot on his life.
I was made aware 1 month ago. We thought things through and worked out the details. The result of that became a special operation where one person has been detained.
This video from the SBU purportedly shows the arrest of the Ukrainian citizen paid by Russian agents to organize Babchenko's murder. The suspect is alleged to have hired another Ukrainian to kill him. Kiev says this was part of a larger plan by Moscow to assassinate some 30 people on Ukrainian soil. Russia and Ukraine are still in conflict over Moscow's annexation of Crimea and its support for pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine.
Well, today we're joined here for the France 24 debate by former French ambassador to Moscow, Claude Blanche-Maison, who is also the author of Vivre avec Poutine, or Living with Putin. Thank you very much indeed for coming to see us. I'm also joined here in the studio by Denis Kolesnik, who is a political analyst at the Gagra Institute, which is based in Georgia. Thank you very much indeed for coming to see us. We're joined from Kiev by Alex Ryabchin, who is a member of the Ukrainian parliament. We're also joined from Kiev. Thank you so much for joining us, I should say. Thank you so much to Katerina Kruk, who is a fellow at the think tank Kremlin Watch and also an expert on debunking fake news. Let's start by just listening in to how a Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, reacted to that news that Babchenko is in fact alive and well.
The story is strange, to say the least. I don't know how much the end justifies the means in this story. Thank God that the person is alive. It does not change her attitude towards Ukraine, a country where being a journalist is dangerous. It does not change the core of the situation. The only thing that has changed is that, thank God, this person is alive.
Okay, the words of the Kremlin there, saying this is indeed a strange sequence of events and they're glad that Babchenko is indeed alive. Let me start by asking you, former French ambassador to Moscow, Claude Blanche-Maison, to whose advantage does this sequence of events play out, do you think?
Well, I'm not surprised that Mr. Peskov, the speaker for Kremlin, say that. He's saying that the main result is that Babchenko is alive. And before hearing him, I was going to say the same, because after all, so many journalists are threatened all over the world. I mean, that's good news that this one, who has been threatened, is alive. But the whole plot, of course, is a piece of concern, because fake news, fake murder, maybe fake inquiry, so where are we going to? And of course, the word of the Ukrainian authority is now shaky in a way, which is a good news also for Moscow, for Kremlin people.
Let me turn to you, Denis, ask you pretty much the same question. This was a propaganda coup for who?
Actually, I wouldn't really treat it as a propaganda coup because, first of all, we speak about the fake, we speak about propaganda, but actually we should be speaking about Clausewitz and Sun Tzu. Because Ukraine, contrary to our country, our France, Ukraine is in war actually with Russia, whether it's official or non-official war. It's a proxy war, which means they have to act maybe in a more straightforward way and apply some tactics that maybe we wouldn't actually approve. So for me, it's not really about the propaganda coup. But for me, it was actually strange to see Peskov speaking about Ukraine as a place where a journalist is dangerous to be a journalist. Russia is like I don't really actually remember, but Russia has almost the worst ranking in terms of security of journalists. So I was pretty much astonished by the comment from Peskov.
Peskov saying that indeed, yeah, Ukraine is a dangerous place to be a journalist. But I think a lot of people, as you say, would say the same thing about Russia. Let's go to Kiev and ask Alex Ryabchin, member of the Ukrainian parliament. Were you as surprised as everyone else when you saw Babchenko alive and well on live television?
Yeah, I was extremely surprised because, like the day before, all my Facebook feed was full of mourning about Mr. Babchenko, who was a great journalist, and I was astonished by seeing his life. The first emotion was like great that we did it, and finally, our security service received a credibility inside Ukraine because we had previously assassination of journalists, assassination of former Russian MPs who were in exile in Kiev that was never investigated fully and never prevented. And now finally our security service received credibility inside Ukraine, but unfortunately we have questions of trust outside, and let's speak about this also.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, I mean, why, what's the sort of the rationale behind this? What are the Ukrainian sources and Ukrainian officials that you're talking to saying about why they did this bizarre thing, which to the rest of the world, it's sort of really unprecedented staging of someone's killing in your capital city?
Yeah, I agree, but we should define definitely that there is Russian propaganda and creating a parallel reality, and there is this kind of special sting operation that was done by Ukrainian special services to find out who ordered this assassination, who did this, so just to receive more proofs. I agree with you that this is a bit bizarre. I don't know why they need to assassinate, let's say, him, why they had not created the reality that maybe he's in critical condition. I don't know. This is a question that we will definitely ask to our security service. You know, I'm from opposition political party, Fatherland, and we will definitely ask for more why they did this, and they need to show proof that they definitely require this. But
yeah, they went to great lengths. They covered him.
Hybrid war.
They covered him in pig's blood. They took him to a morgue. Apparently, the wife was in the dark. I mean, they went to really great lengths to make this look as real as possible. And let me turn to you, Katerina Kruk in Kiev. I just want to know what you think has been the overall reaction from people there in Kiev to this strange sequence of events these last couple of days.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking this topic for a debate. And I would really very much agree with previous colleagues of mine, Ukrainian ones, who mentioned that there is indeed a difference of reactions among Ukrainians and in the Western audience. Because obviously the first reaction of Ukrainians when they found out that a very trusted and very popular public figure, journalist, who is very well known in Ukraine, is killed, obviously was absolutely tragic, and everyone was overwhelmed with this news because we are at war with Russia, and every single day we are receiving reports that someone was killed, but losing such a dear person was a great shock. Even the bigger shock was to find out that he's alive and everything was a staged operation by SBU. Me, myself, when I just learned that Babchenko is alive, my first reaction was that it might be some fake news, but obviously, luckily, it was true. I saw also something which shows a very healthy reaction of Ukrainians, because I saw a lot of humor, and actually it was initiated by Babchenko himself, because one of the first posts on Facebook that he's done today was actually about that, well, let's laugh about it, and people started sending him a lot of memes, and everyone really felt relief, because Ukraine is facing so many bad and dark news almost every single day, that learning that one of those news was actually untrue is a great relief for us. Unfortunately, the reaction of Western audience, as also journalists, first of all, who are covering Ukraine, has been absolutely different. And to be honest, me, myself, I've been working on Twitter with English-speaking audience for more than 4 years now, ever since the beginning of Euromaidan revolution. I was surprised to how personally many people took this event as someone wanted to deceive them personally, and they really didn't want for some time to look at the entire situation, that it was operation aimed at saving the life of the person, of someone who is dear to them according to the condolences they shared, and not the fake news operation. As a person who is working on this information and on this specific issue, I would really very much disagree with the very term that that one of you have used, that this is the fake news. This was just a part of operation. And fake news, which are being used by Russia, they are used to deceive the audience. SBU, the moment when they were ready and they were able to share information, they went out publicly and they explained everything. So this is not the case of the fake news.
Okay, but aren't you concerned, and this is a question to the panel as well, that perhaps from here on after, we're going to have difficulty if there's a major announcement that's made by Kiev? We're all going to be wondering whether perhaps it's another stunt of some description, or there may be some element of doubt in our minds. What are your thoughts, Ambassador?
That's of course a risk, because at first sight it seems to be a very good plot, very clever plot. But on second sight, and maybe on a long term, from a long term point of view, it is too clever by half. Plot, because it could return against the Ukrainian authority by putting in doubt any declaration from their side, whether it is serious or not. And so it's of course it's a very dramatic decision which has been taken in Ukraine to stage this whole thing just to save this journalist and to find out who was going to try and kill him, if it's the case. Which of course remains to be demonstrated.
And isn't there sort of a concern that this could also play into the hands of Russia, that says, I told you, the Ukrainian government and Ukraine, everyone's out to get us, putting out these stories that aren't true, just to tarnish our image? Isn't that something that could be a consequence of these events?
Russia will definitely try to play this card. That's clear, and they are pretty good at it. But at the same time, I have to remind to our audiences that the security service of Ukraine had and still has actually quite a bad image in Ukraine and within the democratic world, because the persons who work there and who have worked there, they were trained during the Soviet times, together with their Moscow colleagues, for instance. And the fact that they didn't share the information beforehand, they were afraid of leaks, I believe. And my little theory is that actually they managed to figure out who's been working from inside for Russians within their institution, which means definitely we won't be seeing it on the news, but I believe the other part of the story is actually fight against the double agents who work for Russia within the security service of Ukraine.
Let me just ask you, Alex Ryabchin, in Kiev, to what degree is it believed that Babchenko's life was actually in danger?
Well, we had a sequences of events when there was an assassination of the Russian or previously Russian citizens who were criticizing Putin's regime. And we are definitely in stage of war with Russia. Basically, it's hybrid war. It's not only military or economic war. It's a propaganda war. So basically, our security services put them on the risk, put their reputation on the risk by playing this plot. And I definitely agree that they need to show the real evidence to court and internationally that they're required to do this kind of stuff. But let's be honest, there is low trust to the Ukrainian authorities internationally, because if there were trust before, when Ukrainians in 2014 stated that there is a Russian green man occupied Crimea, because nobody believed in this, there was no insignia, and we don't know whether there's Russian troops or not. We said the same, that there are Russian troops in Donbass, and they are shelling from Russian territory by Graz to Ukrainian soldiers. Nobody believed, yet before the journalists, independent journalists investigated this. Same with the Russian book that hit MH17 2017. We said that this was Russian book. We never been there. We never had this type of a book. But Russia did a lot of mispropaganda, and yet not a lot of, like, there are some people who doesn't believe that it's Russia. So we are playing on this game with a hybrid war. We responded hybridly. Maybe it's better to respond with trust and play on more trust building. But yet this is the this is the role that we choose. Definitely we need to show the evidence, but I promise you we will do the very, very big scrutiny on this. And the last one,
we're going to talk
Ukrainian Parliament. We have a law on national.
All right, we're going to talk more about the evidence. We'll talk more about the evidence in the second half. You've had the last word for the first half. Alex Ryabchin there, Member of Parliament in Kiev. Thank you so much for that. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with the top stories. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Annette Young, and in this special edition of the 51%, we'll be taking a look at the women who shaped Paris. Not that we know much about them, since there's hardly any public acknowledgement, if at all, except for a few statues and the occasional metro station name. But we'll be meeting those who are keen to enlighten us all.
The 51%, presented by Annette Young on France 24 and France24.com.